Love spell gone wrong. My personal true story, love spell gone wrong. It was October when my very best friend, Lynn, and I decided we had celebrate our birthdays together as we always did, but this was a special year. We were both turned on 18, so we decided it would be a good idea to celebrate by bar hopping from town to town down 20, which was a main route that connected all our little upstate Ohio towns together. Our birthdays were less than 2 weeks apart, and we had been best friends from our first meeting at age 12. Not too much to remember until our last stop. We were about 40 miles away from home at this point, and this is where my story begins. I met Kevin. He was tall, blonde, and had sparkling blue eyes that twinkled with just a hint of mischief. He was 5 years older than me, quite gregarious, fun-loving, spontaneous with a hysterical sense of humor. He had a very adventurous spirit and enjoyed skydiving. He was also an amateur photographer as well. He liked to take pictures as he was free-falling. He had a job, a car, and was attending the local college. I just loved his spirit, as you can imagine. I fell in love fast and furious. We were together every spare moment, running around with our friends and going to parties, just living it up as young people do, not a care in the world. If a great song came on the radio, he had pulled the car over and dance in the street. Anytime we went to the movies, I had let him pick as his choice was the best choice always. He was smart and articulate, and very good looking. There was never a dull moment with Kevin. I just adored him. June 1973, he and his little brother had decided to take a road trip out to experience the mountains in Colorado for the summer. I was so happy for them both, and I really loved his brother too, and wanted them to go and have a good time. What I did not know yet, I was pregnant. While they were out on their adventure, we communicated infrequently. No cell phones back then. I was afraid to tell him, and when I finally told him, he was silent. I did not hear back from him until about 2 weeks later. He wrote me a letter and informed me that he was not coming back to Ohio. I was devastated, heartbroken beyond imagination. During this time, I came across an article in the Reader's Digest on how to cast a love spell. Of course, that's the answer, right? I was diligent and cast this spell every single day for several months through tears and intense emotional upheaval. I had never experienced such pain in my life, well, except for when Shep, our family dog, died when I was 16. One night, I had slept on the couch and suddenly woke up at 6 a.m., fully awake, and said to myself, "He's back." It was late October, a full year now since we had met, and I had been very diligent in my task. Now, I do believe that this was a supernatural experience, because this is not now nor never was the way I wake up. It usually takes me at least an hour to become somewhat coherent, and I did not drink coffee back then. Well, I waited until 10:30 a.m. before I called his mom's house. This was an excruciating 4.5 hours, as I tried to anticipate his response. When I finally did call, his brother answered. I just knew he was back, though I cannot tell you how it was that I knew. I just did. I still know things somehow that I have no way of knowing. I guess it's more of a feeling knowing. I guess I feel knowledge in my spirit. It's weird and hard to explain. But on with my story. After speaking with him, he drove the 40 miles and came to see me. I do not know what went through his mind. I was very pregnant and had gained about 50 pounds, but everything seems to be all right. He moved in with me right then and there, got a job, and the baby came. What a darling little boy he was, and the apple of our eye. At first I did not notice the changes in Kevin. They were very subtle at first, but soon he became very stressed, quit his job, started doing major drugs and alcohol, and spent more and more time away from home. Now we had done our fair share of partying, let me tell you. But this became way out of hand, and maybe now that we had a baby, I was not so much fun anymore, since I took my responsibility as a parent very serious and did not run around and party anymore. When he was home, nothing was right. He imagined all sorts of things and became very distrustful. He did things that were out of character for him and became paranoid, and about drove me crazy right along with him, as I watched him spiral downward into madness. My point? You see, like Gage Creed, he was not the same person that came back. His was completely changed. He was no longer fun. He enjoyed psychological head games. I guess maybe this was some sort of testing ground. I do not know how he did it, but man, he had my mind so messed up. We even went to counseling and thank God. They kept him at the institution for a while. I was relieved at the time because I got a badly needed reprieve from him. But they could not help him. You see, it was not until much later that I realized that he had been possessed by demons, and I do believe there was more than a few. The last time I saw him before I left for good, he was unrecognizable. He emitted an undescribable odor that was so offensive, but was not a normal smell. His knees were larger than his thighs, and you could see every rib protruding from the back or front. His eyes had dark circles and were sunk into his head, and he looked absolutely haunted. He looked like a person who had been in a concentration camp. I remember looking at him in amazement that he was actually still alive. I was finally able to escape by taking my children and moving to the middle of the US where I knew no one. I did see him again sometime later. He had put on a small amount of weight, although his mind was still the same as when I had left, God forgive me. I always wondered if I had been the cause of the demons by my spell casting. It seemed like he had a legion in there. I still feel responsible because I do not know for sure if every time I cast that spell, if he did not receive another demon, I kind of suspect it was my fault, you know. Like another knowing. Please do not mess around with any kind of spell, no matter how innocent it seems. You do not know the ramifications of your actions. Believe me, it's better to let them leave and find another person. It's just not worth the torment you will put yourself through, and sadly it will be your own doing. The reason I have decided to share this is maybe I can get some peace, knowing that my story helped at least one person escape what I experienced. I have lived with this my entire life. Let this be your warning. Written by Deborah Goree. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button to support my work. And as always, enjoy the fear, my dear.